This is the third and probably final part of this series on Letecia Stauch's police interviews, and I'm going to just get right into it.
And so, like, in my mind, I kept thinking, Albert's going to be like, oh my, and I didn't want Albert to be like, trying to hurt us.
She's explaining why she didn't disclose earlier. Again, painting Albert as an abuser. Notice she does say us. Is she talking about Harley? I'm not suggesting here that Harley had anything to do with it. Based on the available evidence, I'm sure she did not. She was manipulated by her mother, for sure. Some single moms of only children will use us because they are so connected with the child. Everything that happens to mother involves the child. You hear the term package deal. So is she talking about Harley? Or is she going to say that she was talking about other personalities? Because this crime was so horrific and Letecia's character is so base, the natural reaction of people is to dismiss her defense and not think about it. Ignoring information we don't like or that doesn't fit with what we believe is always a mistake. So let's take a look at this. Let's say, for the sake of argument, us refers to other personalities. That would mean Letecia knows about those personalities. Her awareness or lack of awareness of these personalities is an important point. I did a video on this called Questions the Prosecution Hasn't Asked Yet that addresses this issue. If us refers to the other personalities, it means there's communication between those personalities, and that speaks to a level of control, which means she is criminally responsible. I suspect the tussle she speaks of after she killed Gannon could be her mental struggle about what to do next. It took time to commit the homicide. She thought there was someone at the door and was able to go and check and make sure she wasn't getting caught. When she went to the door the first time before Lena got home, Gannon was horribly wounded but still alive. If there had been a psychotic break, and given the planning, I don't believe that, then she wouldn't have been able to take steps in the middle of the crime to evade detection. And as I said before, even if another personality did this thing, she was still faced with the aftermath and chose to complete the crime and clean up the scene, including those stairs. If she does indeed have alternate personalities, then her use of the word us tells us that there are not amnesic barriers. What I'm saying here is that even if she does have dissociative identity disorder, she's still responsible for the crime. There was no psychotic break and no amnesic barriers. Sorry that was so long. Let's keep going.
We kind of get in a lot of fights. Yeah. And I just want you to know that was the only reason that I made up the lie, is because I knew that I didn't want to face the consequences of, trying to explain to him all that was going on.
I didn't want to face the consequences. Exactly.
All that was going on. Because he was saying to me, you're trying to make this about you. This is not about you. And I knew all those things because I've lived in it. I panicked and I just told a story, and I was going to try to think of plan. And I'm sorry that it might have delayed.
You're trying to make this about you. Well, yeah. It's not just Albert saying that. Clearly, this behavior of hers has been pointed out in the past. So what did she do about it? Did she go for therapy? Try to change? Have some introspection? Nope. I panicked and told a story. That's likely true. But instead of taking this opportunity to give everyone desperately needed answers, she continues to lie.
Looking for Gannon, but I do not know where Gannon was.
I do not know where Gannon was. The use of the past tense here might be used by her defense, but what she says next blows that out of the water.
I do not know. I do not know his whereabouts from that point on.
Hold on. If she doesn't know where Gannon was because she was in a psychotic break, and then she doesn't know where Gannon is, doesn't know what happened from that point on, that suggests the psychotic break happened after the homicide. It happened during the disposal of the body and crime scene cleanup. She can't have it both ways. There was no psychotic break. And even if there are multiple personalities, they were all there and they all participated.
But it was still in the same time frame that I gave you guys. So there was no contradictory to that same time frame because it still was about 4 o'clock.
She's telling the truth about the time frame. She planned the homicide. She kept Gannon home. That was planned ahead. She spent all day working up to it. She knew her window of opportunity was closing. She stabbed him, hit his head, and we hear about her blacking out repeatedly, but I suggest Gannon was the one blacking out. And when he wouldn't die and it was getting late, she shot him. That final shot happened shortly before Lena got home.
To go over the time frame with me. What was the time frame?
It had to be around like 4.
Okay.
Because Harley gets off at 4:30.
Okay.
And so Harley had just gotten home, or no, was on her way home or something. And my phone was like alerting. I knew Harley was on her way home.
Whoa. Letecia's phone was alerting to tell her Harley was on her way home? Was this an alert or a text? Because it matters.
On her way home. And I was going to tell Harley when she got there. I was going to be like, look, this is what happened. We need to get help. We need to call 911. And all I kept thinking about was, it's going to be my fault. Because I gave him the code. He brought the carpet.
I was going to tell Harley. Tell her what? That she killed Gannon? Or that a man attacked her in the manner she is describing? Either way, it would be a terrible burden to put on your child, even at that age. Imagine growing up with a mother like this. He brought the carpet. Again, if she was, as she claimed, confusing the man with Gannon, what happened here? Gannon brought the carpet? Even if you take this in the context of her insanity defense, it doesn't hold together.
Are you doing okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So the time frame is that 4 o'clock is whenever.
I don't want to tell you exactly 4. I don't like saying that because
about
I don't
4
want
o'clock was whenever. Yeah. We can say about.
Okay.
Okay. And then what happened after that?
The detective is hearing the lies. Her question of what happened after that doesn't mean she believes the story. But I bet she recognizes that Letecia is giving her important bits of real information. Although Letecia lays it on thick, the veil is thin, my friends. The detective encourages Letecia to keep talking. There is some structure to it, but she shuts up and lets Letecia talk. This is when victims and offenders alike will provide information that you didn't already know to ask. Things to explore further. This is also where offenders get themselves locked into a story. Pro tip here. If you think someone is lying to you, don't act suspicious. Act interested and encourage them to talk. Let them lock themselves into their story, paint themselves into a corner. Then you can ask questions.
So,
did Harley come home? Or?
Yeah, Lena's still out and about. Harley's home, comes home or whatever. I'm pacing the house, like, trying to think of a plan of, like, what do I do? And I should have, like, immediately, like, gotten on the phone, did whatever. But all I kept thinking about was, it's all my fault. It's my fault because Albert's going to say to me, you gave some stranger access to our home. You know, this is all on you. And in my mind, I thought I could fix it. Like in my mind, I thought I could fix this. And I don't know why I thought that. That was horrible decision making problem. But it also was in a very emotional state that in normal situations, people can say all they want. I will call, I would do this, I would do this. But if you're not in a situation, everybody handles things differently.
Sure.
And I was making an irrational decision in a panic situation when I should have immediately, being an educator, being all these things, it should have been one of those things where it was immediate, know how to answer. And you might think, this girl's going to want to be a flight attendant. She's got to be able to think fast. It was not that easy in the moment because my mind was in so many directions that I could fix it. I literally thought I was going to fix it.
Sure.
And that was where it went from there.
Pacing, trying to come up with a plan. Everything has taken too long. She realizes she can't really tell Harley. The mess she made committing the homicide was bigger than she expected. Again, if she'd had a psychotic break, and now she's in her right mind, there would be no need to pace or plan. There would be horror and grief at what she is seeing in her house. Thinking about telling Albert this story, she's realizing he's not going to buy it. She had the story made up in her head in advance, like so many other offenders. But then, faced with the reality of the situation, it hits home that what they've planned and imagined is not the way it goes in reality. Letecia is explaining to the detective her thought process in the cover-up of the crime. This is a confession, albeit unwitting. Listen to this next part. She is describing to the detective her thought process as she works out how she's going to be successful at covering her crime and how she has a plan B.
I didn't tell Harley. I paced around the situation and was thinking, okay, if I don't have any kind of like information, like if I don't have a plan in my brain by a certain time, that's when I'm going to call authorities.
Okay.
And so that's how.
So you had like predetermined a time that you were going to call if you hadn't figured it out?
I didn't come up with a specific time, but in my brain I kept saying, okay, I got to act soon. But I knew that, you know, I'm like thinking by 6:30, like I need to make a good decision because what am I going to tell the girls? Because they're going to be like, you know, like where's Gannon? Like because we were going to all go eat sushi, so that was where that time frame would have been like, what am I supposed to do? Go get in the car and be like, Gannon's not going with us. I couldn't keep going on and on with the irrational decision of not calling 911.
Okay.
And I had to stop the decision.
So what happened?
She'd made an irrational decision on not calling the police. It wasn't going to hold water. So she either had to come up with something better to explain Gannon's absence, or she'd have to call the police and tell them a story. Note that telling the truth was never an option in her mind, and there's not a scintilla of grief, only concern for herself. We already know she is both a narcissist and an unstable personality. I'm going to go a step further and come right out and say she's a psychopath.
So tell me what happened as it went on.
So I called 911.
Okay.
And they said, hey, sorry, you know, this is not an emergency. You have to call this other line.
Okay.
So I called the other line, and it was a 4-hour wait for them to get there.
Okay.
So 4 hours later, they came. I'm still in a panic set. I'm like, these people are, nothing I say is going to solve this situation. So I did say that, can't live at this time. Again, I've admitted it's a very rational decision because it could have been more helpful to be honest and say, this is the description, here's who we're looking for, instead of like the situation being like, he was gone. And that was horrible. I should have done that because I panicked.
Okay.
I need to make a decision.
Okay.
You know, and
did you hear her fake honesty and her fake remorse about not calling 911 earlier? Does she not know how obvious this is? Next, she describes the police coming and searching. I'm not going to play all that, but there's one bit at the end I want you to hear. Here it is.
You know, like, would this be here? Would this be here?
Sure, trying to figure out what's normal, what's not normal.
And I put everything back in order. Like,
Okay.
like I told you I moved the carpet, you know, I fixed the situation because
I fixed it.
and he asked me, was anything missing? And it was the truth. There was nothing missing because I did take the gun that he had. I did put the gun back.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Okay.
Police ask her if anything was missing, and she says no. I don't know about you, but my brain jumped right to the fact that, wait a minute, there is a little boy missing and a suitcase. But that's not her focus. Her focus is on covering for herself. Then I realized she is telling the truth here. Gannon and the suitcase are not missing because Letecia still has them. And she put the gun back. You know, the magic gun that kept disappearing and reappearing? Al's gun the defense tried to call a right-handed gun. The gun that Letecia blurts out that she didn't go downstairs with? That gun that she puts away in the course of fixing the situation. After hearing this, the detective says, okay, 3 times.
I did put the gun back.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Okay.
I'd like to know what was going through her head right there. Like, holy crap, man, this woman sitting in front of me is the murderer, and she keeps confessing without knowing it. In the next clip, Letecia spontaneously brings up this bit about headphones. The detective had not asked a question for which it's a sensible response.
I didn't want to leave out any key points or whatever.
Sure.
I had my headphones on because when I was like upstairs when it all started, I had my headphones on, so my headphones were still on through the whole scene. So that's why if you ask me like where, like, did you hear any noises? Did you hear anyone leaving? Did you hear the alarm go back off? I had my headphones still on. They were still on my head.
When you came inside the house?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What has happened here is that Letecia realizes there was a part of the intruder narrative that she'd forgotten to tell. So she wants to get it in here. The detective tries to clarify. Letecia tries to answer, covering all the possible cracks, but now the detective is going to ask her a question Letecia was not prepared for. And I wish I could have obtained better video because you can't see the details of Letecia's facial expressions, but the detective saw. And you can hear Letecia suddenly shut up for a second, and you see her whole body go into that fight, flight, or freeze. Here it is.
Okay.
Yeah, like I had my headphones still on when I came inside the house. Like not coming in the house with them, but like in the house. When I went downstairs, I still had my headphones on.
Okay.
Yeah, like I did like this.
Okay, so help me understand.
Yeah.
So when you came into the house, you didn't have them on, but then you had them on when you went downstairs?
Yeah, because I came in doing like a normal, I would get ready to listen to music, I was going to work out.
Oh, okay.
So I like, you know, you like move them back and forth.
What kind do you have?
Like I have Beats audio.
Like the ones that go over or
Yeah.
like they come in?
Yeah, the ones that like,
Okay.
like they kind of like smash your head in or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I always have to,
Like,
yeah, I always have
depends
to,
on your head?
I always have to like move them, you know, like back and forth and stuff like that.
Okay.
And that's what I was doing, like moving them when I was like, do I hear something? You know, because it's kind of like I heard something, but I wasn't sure that I heard something at all. And that's when I started when I'm upstairs.
Okay. And are they like noise canceling or anything like that, or ambient sound, or do they just...
Watch again. Letecia is scratching her shoulder or maybe fixing her bra strap. When she hears the question, that hand stops moving, her head turns and tilts, and she stares at the detective.
Okay. And are they like noise canceling or anything like that, or ambient sound, or do they...
Letecia hedges on whether the headphones are noise canceling or not because her brain is scrambling to work out which answer works best and whether the police will check.
They just do like play regular music?
I mean, I think they would be noise canceling, right? Because that would be...
I don't know. I think you can get them either way.
That would be Beats. I'm not sure.
I think you can get them either way.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if you knew.
Yeah, I don't know. We have 2 different pairs, and the one, like we have 2 different and I know one of them is like the push, like push in kind or whatever.
Mhm.
And the other one doesn't push in as much, and I have the ones that like. So
Okay.
that
So
might
you
be,
have 2 different pairs?
no, Albert, I'm saying like we have 2 as
As a family.
Yeah.
Okay. So which ones were you wearing?
Mine.
She settles on saying they're the kind you push in, forgetting that seconds ago she was illustrating with both her words and gestures that she was wearing over-the-ear headphones. Of course we know the whole headphone thing is just a piece of her prefabricated narrative, but watching this play out in front of your eyes is interesting. Watch as the detective asks another innocuous question. Letecia will literally do a double take and pause before answering.
Okay, which color are those?
I feel like they're like a gold or maybe like a matte gold or.
Okay. And what color are Albert?
Give him mine too.
When was that?
Today.
Today?
Yeah. So like she took all then when you guys I'm sorry. When in your department, I guess they went through my closet or whatever.
Okay.
They still left the guns in the closet, but they weren't in the same place that they were.
Sure.
And so Albert took all them too because
Albert moved the guns out of the house. Here is where Letecia throws away her own defense.
he was like, "Oh well, I don't want you to harm yourself," and things like that. He was saying those things to me, so he took them all and made me give him mine as well.
And that was today?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a history of trying to harm yourself?
No. Say things like, he tried to say something about, like, I'll grab a knife. It's not true. I do not do that. Like, I have never done anything like that in my entire life. Never have received any kind of counseling for anything prior to anything like that, disturbing, nothing like that.
She doesn't have a history of harming herself. She is emphatic that she has no such history. She says, never in my life, never have I needed counseling.